How is evolution different than growth? This insight from Wikidiff. As nouns, the difference between growth and evolution is that growth is an increase in size, number, value, or strength, while evolution is gradual directional change, especially one leading to a more advanced or complex form. In our human life, we grow from conception to birth to toddlerhood, childhood, adolescence, adulthood, and elderhood. Then as adults, our physicalness continues to change, but we are humans the whole time. As our young storyteller shares, every ingredient in the human body is made from elements from dying stars. From stardust to human being, we have evolved. Even if you don't take the story of the Big Bang literally, or the creation myth of the Bible literally, science really has concluded that we are ultimately evolved from stardust. That the energy that constituted the Big Bang eventually evolved into the complexities that are us, trees, bees, and bears, and everything else on Earth. Stardust was the beginning, and then, as younger Emma tells us, everything rested in the heart of the great mystery. We lit our chalice this morning in the spirit of the deep respect for the mystery and holiness of life. Why is life such a mystery? Seems to me that everything changes so much that we can never really figure it all out. Why do we want to? Do we always have to draw conclusions at the end of something? The church year, the pandemic, our lives? Or may we rest in this respect for life's complexities, this mystery? This brings to mind a quote that may sound familiar from Octavia Butler, science fiction author of the Parable of the Sower and Parable of the Talents. All that you touch, you change. All that you change changes you. The only lasting truth is change. God is change. It was challenging to think about how to present Faith Development Sunday this year. As I wrote for the annual report, I thought, here it is. It's the list of what we did and what we did not, what we could do and what was literally impossible, especially for parents with children and for those who weren't able to use the technology to stay in touch. Believe me, I empathize. Right now, over the past month or so since spring has emerged, every opportunity I have to say no to an online program, that's what I do. Seems so long being on the computer that right now, in this moment, it's time for doing, and I've been planting and picking at every opportunity. After submitting the pieces of the annual report, especially the faith development piece, I thought to myself, what would the annual report that I really wanted to write look like? Reverend Michelle said once over the past week or so, as we were all submitting our various laundry lists, why can't it just be pictures? Wow. Yeah, why can't it just be pictures? Well, last year it was almost impossible to get pictures, but we did catch quite a few of you in your craftiness as we created together the best we could. The report I really want to write or show would look like us, like all of us, not just the people who grew closer together through the dramatic pause of pandemic, but all of us, all of you watching this at 10:30 a.m. on Sunday, June 13th, 2021, prior to participating in the Unitarian Universalist Church of Amherst annual meeting, either in person or via Zoom. Anyone who is watching this at a different time, and those of you who won't ever hear this reflection because you just haven't really been engaged in church life since the pandemic. Maybe you will hear the call to action from those who have been paying attention all along. Maybe you're just joining us. You're invited to be in the next year's photo album too. This annual report would show this entire community engaged in a way that honors the evolution that it is going through. It would be all of us, together, sharing our values, our time, talent, and treasure for longer than the annual meeting or the annual picnic. Next year, I want to report that we were gentle with one another as we regathered. We all showed up to services, to programs, and to leadership, even if it was in the smallest way, like writing thank yous to businesses that have stood up for LGBTQ rights, as Reverend Michelle suggested last week. Maybe you show up by gathering a donation for any of the organizations who support the water protectors. Maybe you show up by being one small voice for our core values of compassion and justice by getting out the vote through our local Stand Up Western New York or another organization, flexing the muscles of our democracy. Do these things in the name of your church. Take a church friend with you. Let us know the good work you are doing in the name of this church. Just 2 short years ago, we began to shift the congregation to policy governance and to begin work with our Committee on Mission, the body that acts as the liaison between governance and ministry and ensures that our various ministry teams align with our mission. This committee, after figuring out who they were and the role they were charged with, came to the faith development team. Ultimately, our work together in refining our FD mission statement and defining goals for the next church year centers our core values that come from our church mission to challenge ourselves and the community to foster more compassion and justice in the world. Hence the evolution of our faith development mission statement from the former. To develop and lead educational programs for all ages that foster the values of compassion and justice in our community and beyond. 2, to develop and promote opportunities for all ages that lead towards spiritual wholeness while creating an inclusive, beloved community both within and beyond our congregation. This change from lead educational programs for all ages to promote opportunities for all ages speaks to the shift in religious education overall in Unitarian Universalism that Reverend Michelle just told us about. Then, we've added 2 action pieces. First, to lead towards spiritual wholeness, and then to create an inclusive, beloved community. These changes are kin to the actions of the proposed 8th principle that many congregations have adopted. This is the 8th principle. We, the member congregations of the Unitarian Universalist Association, covenant to affirm and promote journeying towards spiritual wholeness by working to build a diverse, multicultural, beloved community by our actions that accountably dismantle racism and other oppressions in ourselves and our institutions. Not only are we the love people, but this love we share and promote requires taking action. This gradual directional change, this evolution towards more action, is a tenet for our faith, and yes, it does need to be spoken. This is missional change and focused, purposeful evolution of our souls, and of the soul of this congregation to not only be welcoming, but to be radically inclusive. My hope is that our mission will continually evolve to include justice and compassion for all members of the Earth family. Last week for Pride Sunday, we heard about being a welcoming congregation. What's the difference between welcoming and inclusion? This question was posed to a number of Quaker leaders, and the responses were shared on our Facebook page this week. First, this comment from our own Lorraine Marcus. If welcoming requires work, just imagine the amount of work being inclusive requires. Both are ongoing practices facilitating personal growth, deep listening facilitating, and a sense of belonging. And Lisa Graustein from the Three Rivers meeting and one of the facilitators for last summer's program, Radical Acting in Faith for White People, brings this back to the kids. Are we acting as if our young people are fully a part of our body? Or these kids who are kind of there some of the time? This, my friends, this is why we need all of us acting in small, big, any way at all that aligns with our mission. Because to include means to include all of the time, not just some of the time. We need to practice this radical inclusion, to include all of us, all of the time. All genders, all colors, all shapes, all capacities, all ages are welcome here in this place. This whole community can reflect on our Spirit Play class behavior prompts. This is how we will behave. We will be gentle and kind. We will listen. We will be calm, show respect, think it over, try again, focus, and finish. Our faith, our belief in our principles and sources, and in our relationships to one another is a journey of faith development that evolves over our entire lifespan. Last year's curriculum for both adults and youth raised awareness within our community of the intersection of all the justices. And we have seen this intersection come more and more into the mainstream of consciousness. The evolution of civil rights is continuing to bend toward the arc of justice, bringing to light the truths that environmental and racial justice are intrinsically connected. I have had the honor and privilege of witnessing this revelation within many of you, even as it has evolved within myself. This realization of complexity, this honoring of this country's true history, and the longing to bring it into full light. If you haven't allowed your soul to open to these truths, never fear. There will be more excellent opportunities to do so this coming year as we intentionally widen the circle of concern and inclusion. The first reflection I ever offered to this congregation in 2013 through our Preaching by Parishioners program contained this quote from T.H. White from the Once and Future King. "The best thing for being sad," replied Merlin, "is to learn something. That's the only thing that never fails. You may grow old and trembling in your anatomies. You may lie awake at night listening to the disorder of your veins. You may miss your only love. You may see the world about you devastated by evil lunatics, or know your honor trampled in the sewers of baser minds. There is only one thing for it then, to learn. Learn why the world wags and what wags it. That is the only thing which the mind can never exhaust, never alienate, never be tortured by, never fear or distrust, and never dream of regretting. Learning is the only thing for you. Look at what a lot of things there are to learn." UUAmherst faith development programs will continue to foster learning, compassion, and justice for all. The expansion of this learning and practice will be dependent on all of our interactions and participation. All of the little pieces that create wholeness in ourselves, our children, and our world need to emerge and be seen. Take pictures. Share them with us. Tell your stories. Come here to this place, and we will listen to one another. We will try again. We can focus, finish, and begin again. And of course, I have to lead us into the garden here. Every once in a while, it seems as though some plant just shows up in some garden. But I know it actually did not just show up. There was some complex pre-process that brought it to emergence, a combination of some sort of traveling mechanism, perhaps the wind, the back of the dog, or my shoes, that brought it to its place. It wasn't evoked with a magic wand. It didn't just simply appear. It emerged without me seeing it, and the way it landed there may never be fully known to me. "Key, what is your story?" I ask. And I ask each of you, what is your story? You didn't just show up. You all came into this church community through your unique, complex evolution. Now that you remain here, how will your own story continue to build this beloved, radically inclusive community? As we come back together in the spirit of gentleness, love, and kindness, may we learn to be better together. This is the evolution of faith development.